brothers and I, we opened up our sleds, and my aunt lamented the fact that there hadn't been any snow that year.
Oh, it's her fault.
We got into January of '78, still no snow. And then obviously, the first, second week of February, boom. 10 years old, and it was tied in. The storm came in, I believe, the week after or the week before February vacation. And I can tell you, in the community that I grew up in the demographic of 8 to 12-year-old males, the question among us was, and this is discussed on a daily basis, was whether or not Governor Dukakis was going to make us make up one of those weeks at the end of the school year. And being the executive that he is, we didn't have to do that.
Good decision.
I've been waiting 35 years to thank you for that.
So we did have a second Valentine's Day. The flower shops got wiped out. So, I don't know, 2 weeks later we had Valentine's Day number 2.
That was a legendary storm. I have many wonderful memories from that storm. 10 years later, 1988 rolled around, and 20 years old, and I was participating in my first presidential election as a voter, and I voted for Governor Dukakis. There was never any question in my mind as to what I was going to do. Not only his political record, but his public service record in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts was impeccable, and it's an honor for me to introduce him to you tonight, former Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis.
Only for Matt Patrick would Kitty and I drive from Boston to Plymouth at 4:30 in the afternoon. And if I was not officiating at a wedding tomorrow of one of my former graduate students at Northeastern, who's having his first rehearsal dinner in Waltham that we're going to try to make after we spend some time with you guys, I'd be coming down here in the train. I mean, I would not. But you know, the Blues of '78 was an interesting situation, John. And it was my first term, and it's been a rough first term. Dear wife, who, by the way, continues to be the most beautiful Medicare recipient in America. She's going to be 78 on the 26th of September.
Right.
Very lucky. But as you can imagine, it was quite a week for us. Had I extended the freeze for another day, I'd probably been impeached. But for a week, I governed like a dictator. It was wonderful. You couldn't get into town. Right? And then, after all of this stuff and what a great job we did in all that business, I get defeated by Ed King in the primary in September. Nobody can understand this. I was 40 points ahead in the polls with 5 weeks to go. Look out for the polls. And Bill Bulger, as usual, had a very astute observation. He said the problem was Dukakis kept husbands and wives together in the house for a week. They got so upset. There were lots. I could go on at length about the stories, but one was kind of interesting. As you recall, we shut down traffic, and we had the National Guard, among other people, out there patrolling the highways. And there was some guy who lived in Billerica, who worked for Polaroid, and he got so stir-crazy in the house. He finally said, I got to get out of here, I'm going to drive down, and drives down I-93 about 5 miles. Nobody around. And is pulled over by a member of the National Guard, who says, who are you, where's your permission, you got a letter, this, that, and the other. The guy says, you know, it's embarrassing. But I was just getting stir-crazy. So the National Guardsman says, get out of the car. Lock the car. Put your keys in the pocket, in your pocket. And he said, wait a second. He takes out a piece of paper, he writes on it. He says, take this, and when you get back to Billerica, read it. The guy feels ridiculous because he had pulled his cars inside of us. He starts walking up back home on I-93. And after about a half a mile, hand in his pocket, takes out this thing, and looks at it. The National Guard had written, "This man is mentally incompetent." That's a true story. Look, we're here because I think so highly of this guy, and because I think, folks, it is very, very important that we keep doing the kinds of things that our current governor and the current legislature have been doing, not only to dig this state out of the worst recession we've had since the Great Depression, but to put us on a path which I think is very impressive. Sometimes, you get a little too inward-looking around you. This state's economy these days is cooking. We have a very good friend who's the head of HR for a long-term care company that runs a number of facilities on the Cape, in and around the Bedford Fall River, and up here along the South Shore. She's got 300 jobs right now she can't fill. Now, on the one hand, that says we've got an economy that's cooking. On the other hand, as Joe Albiani will tell you, this should not be happening, folks. Because when I was governor, as many of you will recall, we had the best welfare to work program in the country. We were putting 15,000 welfare mothers to work. And there are very few men on welfare. There's all single mothers and kids. 15,000 welfare mothers to work every year in what was considered to be, to repeat, the best welfare to work program in the country. If we had that program today, I would hope that the approximately 50,000 families on welfare would have an opportunity to do what all those folks did. And by the way, the vast majority of those women never saw welfare again. And the impact on their kids was terrific. Who do you think killed that program?
Republicans.
The Secretary of Health and Human Services, Charlie Baker. In 1988, and Joe knows this because he worked his tail off on this, I signed the first universal health care bill in the United States of America. Hawaii had come close. Ours was total. This is in '88. And it was modeled on Richard Nixon's health care. We were in the process of implementing it, but it was never fully implemented. Who do you think was the principal force in the Belt administration who managed to first derail it, then postpone it, and finally kill it? This is a sensitive issue, Joe, given your present position. But back in those days, and this was not original with me, it came out of a Republican administration, we had a rate-setting commission that basically set rates for hospitals. Who do you think killed that? I don't want to bore you with one after another after another. The reason I'm talking about this is because I really don't want to go back to those days, and I don't think we want to either. And that's essentially what we're going to get if we don't get guys like this elected, and if we don't elect Martha. Trust me, because we've been there before. Because we've been there before. Tax breaks, Joe, for job creators. Give me a break, folks. Business people do not hire people because you give them a tax break. They hire them because they need them. What they want is well-trained, highly motivated workers who are going to be with them, be productive, earn a decent day's pay, get decent benefits, and help to build this state's economy. The Baker Economic Development Program is this tax incentive. By the way, if you do that, they'll get an accountant to find the tax incentive after they've hired the person. So that's the kind of thing we're facing, folks. And these are tight places, I don't have to tell you, here for sure, and certainly at the gubernatorial level. And for those of us who were veterans and who were experienced this kind of stuff, in Children's Services, an attack ad on Martha Coakley on child abuse. If there's anything that defines Martha Coakley's career, it's what she did when it came to child abuse. Now, there are at least a few of you who had experience. in the Department of Social Services, as we used to call it now, DCF. And only a few of us remember somebody named Linda Carlin, who was the Well Baker appointee as commissioner. She was a disaster, folks. A disaster. They had to fire her. And we had an investigating commission which issued a report which was a terrible indictment of what was going on. And I don't want to go back to that either, needless to say. So it is just so important, folks, that we elect this ticket of ours from top to bottom and give this guy a chance to get back to the State House and do the kinds of great things he was doing in so many fields, energy, environment, so many of these fields, when he was in the legislature the first time around. So, and as you know, I'm a little obsessive when it comes to precinct-based grassroots organizing, but Elizabeth Warren would not be the United States Senator today, folks, if she hadn't put together an extraordinary grassroots organization. I would have never been elected to judge council, let alone governor 3 times. Had it not been the kind of work that many people did for me at the precinct level. And I don't care how many ads somebody runs, I don't even know who's watching these things, to tell you the truth. And the kids that I'm teaching at Northeastern University aren't watching television anyway. I mean, it's a different world. But it is just so important this last couple of weeks that get yourself a good pair of shoes and get out there and say, because these races are not going to be won by huge margins. We know that. Anyway, it's great to be down, great to be alive and well. I told a few of you that we have a daughter in San Francisco, our youngest, Cara, who's just become the #2 person in a major children's services foundation that's financed by a guy named Tom Steer. And it just so happens that Hillary Clinton is the chairman of the board of trustees. So Cara was at her first board meeting, and of course Hillary was there, so she went up and introduced herself to Congress. How's Mike? Fine. Cara says, fine. You know, he just had his 80th birthday.
We found it.
That's what he said. Mike? Well, it's the truth, folks. 81 on the 3rd of November.
Looks damn
Anyway,
good for it.
what can I do?
Daughter and
No.
Oh, yeah.
We
Kitty
have-
hasn't started.
we have
Not good.
a youngest, she's not the youngest, next to youngest. She's 8 now. When she was, well, she started reading when she was 3. That says something about her. She also has some of my dad's musical genes and was able to compose a piece of music for her first recital.
A little scary, a little scary.
A little scary, but she's just an extraordinary little girl. And she went in to see her mother about 3 weeks ago and said, I don't want you to work for Hillary. So Carol said to her, what are you talking about? Why? She said, I want to be the first woman president.
So I said to her, I want you to be the president. But we could not wait that long. Anyway. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. It's a real honor for me to have Mike and Kitty here on my behalf. The last time they came to speak for me was about 10 years ago in East Falmouth at the Portuguese American Club. And we had a real surprise there because you'll never guess who showed up. George McGovern showed up. And we had a great time, a big crowd. And Mike, that, you know, I was 52. You know, you were
71.
70. So hopefully, this is my comeback too, folks. Mike had to run again after he lost. I'm running again after I lost 4 years ago. But this is a very winnable seat, and I need your help to do it. We are neck and neck. We are really close, and I feel like all we need is a little extra money, more people in the field, and we're going to make this happen. My opponent is a do-nothing, say-nothing Republican. I mean, he's absolutely, you go to his website, you want to find some some meat or the beef, right? Remember the beef? Where's the beef?
But he smiles.
He smiles a lot, and he says all the right things. He's very popular because he's very friendly. And he is a friendly guy. I was a friend of his when I was in the legislature with him.
But his politics are Neanderthal.
His politics are from the 1950s. He's anti-choice. He's anti-marriage equality. He filed a bill 3 times that would ban books in our public schools like The Diary of Anne Frank or
Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer, anything that had any mention of some sexual connotation. What is it?
All of Shakespeare.
All of Shakespeare's stuff, really. And it's all open to interpretation, but in the wrong hands, almost any book that our children are reading, the classics, could be interpreted as being too far out. And you know where we found that? You know, this is something I should have brought up in the debate last night. We had the debate at WATV. And I asked him why he filed these bills, and he said, "Oh, we had 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans file these bills. We just want to keep bad material out of the hands of kids." Well, that was the first time he filed it. The third time, there were no Democrats on the bill, and we found this bill. We found out about it on a right-wing website. They were very proud that they were bragging about Vinnie DiMacedo filing this bill. So they were looking forward to its passage. Of course, it would never pass in the Massachusetts House. But is that the guy you want representing you up there?
No. I don't.
That is not the guy I wanted representing me, and that's why I'm running. Plus the fact that I knew, and I have total confidence in my ability to pass legislation, because that's what I did in 10 years. I passed, well, the best thing I did, and it was with 2 of my colleagues. We organized to, now I'm going to forget. No. What we did is we organized to close corporate tax loopholes. And I don't know if this was from the Weld administration, but what I found out, and what even the Republican Commissioner of Taxation found out, was that there are over 1,200 corporations in Massachusetts that were grossing between, make sure you listen to this, $100 million and $1 billion. That's right, 100 million and $1 billion grossing. And guess what they paid in taxes? The minimum tax, which is $456. Which is less than the average family, earning $50,000 pays. So we just thought this was outrageous. We tried to get leadership involved. They said, "You're never going to get this through." We organized. We got 65 of our colleagues in the House to sign on to this. We went into a caucus. This is with our old friend, and Sal DeMacy. He made some mistakes, but he did a lot of good things while we were in there. But we were able to convince him in the caucus. When I got up after he was done and making his announcements, I got up and I said, "Mr. Speaker, we've got to close these corporate tax loopholes." When I was done, everyone in the room got up and spoke in favor of it, and we were able to get that through. Not only did that bill produce $200 million in revenue that we needed desperately at the time. This was 2007, when we had just cut the budget by $2.5 billion. We produced $200 million. All of that money went back to the towns, back to local aid, and it saved the jobs of thousands of school teachers and firemen and policemen and municipal workers. Other than that, we were going to cut local aid down to the bone. So that's something that I was very instrumental. I led that fight. I also managed to pass sections in the Green Communities Act that made Massachusetts now the leader and clean energy jobs. We now have over 5,000 businesses and over 70,000 people working in this industry. And all those solar systems you see going up on roofs, that's because of the sections that I put in. We are now the leader in the nation in producing those jobs. There's more we need to do. We have a new industry that's just beckoning for us coastal communities. It's the offshore wind industry. And Cape Wind, as you might know, is going to put in 130 wind turbines in Nantucket Sound. And it's going to produce 1,000 jobs in the construction phase and another 55 full-time jobs in the operations and maintenance. Now, that's going to start next year. Remember, I was the guy who stood up for Cape Wind and said, let's give it a chance. Let's give it a chance to get through all the environmental rigors. They did. It took 12 years, longer than it took Pilgrim to get its permits. Now it's getting ready to start. It's going to give us a jumping off point to get into the bigger field, which is going in 12 miles south of Martha's Vineyard. The federal government is leasing 740,000 acres 12 miles south of Martha's Vineyard for wind farms. There's another big area in between Block Island and Martha's Vineyard. Those are jobs. If I get in, I'm going to make sure that southeastern Massachusetts and our coastal communities have a big role in that, and the jobs that are created are jobs that we fill with people from our area. I promise you I will do that, and hold me to it if I get in. So these are good paying jobs. They're going to create a lot of supporting jobs. And I just know it's not going to happen right away, and maybe 5 or 10 years down the line, but it is going to happen. We're closing Brayton Power Plant. We closed the canal. We're going to have to close Pilgrim. It's a mess. Where are we going to replace that electricity? It's going to be renewable electricity. Studies show that we can do it. Stanford University, University of Maryland, they've done the studies. We can produce a third of the energy that we need in the United States, the electricity, with wind turbines up and down the East Coast. It's going to happen. Mark my words. And we're going to be part of it. All you got to do is get me in November 4th, and I'll make sure that this is our industry. This is our new marine industry. And again, thank you all for coming.